Hey guys, welcome back to the Foolish Show. Of course, I am Foolish Phil. Two things I wanted to talk to you today about. First off, Michigan played Nebraska in Lincoln, Nebraska, basketball. And as typical, Michigan was terrible, especially on the road. I would have to say, since Doug McDaniel is serving his academic suspension, he can't go to road games yet. The team has really struggled without him, and that continued again tonight. It seemed they didn't have any consistency. They had no answer defensively. Nebraska did whatever they wanted to. They got up by 30 points in the first half. Only an 8-0 run by the Michigan, the last 2 minutes, changed the first half from a 28-point blowout to only a 20-point blowout. And basically the rest of the game just stayed about 20 points. I think the closest Michigan got was 16 points after Burnett and Cheddar hit back-to-back three-pointers. But, yeah, never got closer than that. And that was with 4-ish minutes to go in the game. So, two things. One, Michigan's offense was terrible until that little 8-0 spurt there at the end of the half. Michigan was 6 of 24 for the half, I believe, in the first half. That's 24% shooting. Just great. And, of course, they were just giving up way too many easy shots. And it also helped that Nebraska seemed to be pretty much on fire. They were hitting their open shots, which doesn't help when you're missing every shot. So, not surprising. So, really, coming out of this, just some little notes. Obviously, no Doug. Burnett really stepped up. 7 of 10 shooting. He had 18 points. Definitely the leader of the team. Reed and T-Will both went 3 of 9 shooting for 9 points. The real disappointment, Kamwa went 1 of 10 shooting for 3 points. Llewellyn was 3 of 12. Just terrible shooting all around except for Burnett. I gotta say two things that I liked. I would have to say that definitely Cheddar seemed to care. And that helped the team a little bit. It wasn't a flagrant foul, but it was I'm not giving up another layup foul in the second half. I kind of wish it would have happened in the first half, but it happened in the second half. And he definitely could hear the jeering fans. There were some fans behind the Michigan bench who would be cheering when Michigan scored. But they were Nebraska fans cheering behind the bench. And so he had a couple back-to-back threes or somebody. You could see him kind of just looking over him and twitch his head at them yeah, it's whatever. So it was good to see some fight there. Second thing that I do appreciate is after Michigan decided, so this was a 19-point game. Nebraska still had their starters in with 1:41 to go. 19-point game. I guess they have a week off to rest, so they don't want their players to get rusty. But after Michigan subbed out all their starters, then Nebraska did. I'm okay, just remember that. They weren't wanting to call off the dogs until you gave up, I guess. You're up by 19 points with 1:41 to go, and you still had your starters out there. I'm just remember that. Hey, I don't remember everything Michigan has just done. Maybe they had their starters out there late against them. Nebraska some of those years. Who knows? But just remember that. They were up by 19, and Michigan had to pull their starters before Nebraska would. So, but when the reserves were in, Michigan was taking some shots, and I got to give credit. Who do I see on the bench standing up and cheering as shots? A three goes up, they're raising their hand come on, get that shot in. It didn't go in, but still, T-Will was standing up and doing that. And then one of the centers got fouled, and he went to the free throw line and hit his free throws, and T-Will and Cheddar were standing up clapping for him. That's the kind of leadership you like to see. The rest of the team was clapping. Good. I appreciate that. But T-Will and Cheddar were standing up and cheering for him. That's a positive. I know this basketball team's not great, but when you can see some sort of positive out of a 20-point loss, that's nice, okay? So, two things to look forward to. Is Michigan going to finish last in the Big Ten this year? Ohio State, I believe, won in double overtime, I think they said. So, Ohio State's got a game, maybe it's 2-game lead on Michigan now. Michigan's 3-10 in the Big Ten. I'm not sure if Ohio State was 4-9 or 5-9. But will Michigan finish last in the Big Ten for the first time since, I think they said in the broadcast, 1966-67? If that happens, I don't know how Juwan Howard can keep his job. Unless Ward is just that much of a slug who does nothing. I'm sorry that Juwan Howard had heart surgery, but you cannot use that as an excuse to why this team is so poorly built. if what I read correctly this week is true, Michigan has 2 open scholarship slots that they haven't used. And think about it, Michigan has 2 guards on this team, Llewellyn and Doug. 2 guards. 2. One of them is a grad transfer that is stuck around for a second year because he's blew his ACL. Like, what if he would have left after that last year, didn't get a medical redshirt? I'm not sure if he got a medical, but you have 2 guards on your team. That's terrible. So his roster management has been bad. I know the guy from Argentina, I think it was, got screwed over by the NCAA over some improper benefits and not allowed to come to Michigan for $1,500. It's like, where's some NIL there? Just someone would pay it and he could pay and be on the team. But nah, you can't do that. Not for Michigan. No breaks for Michigan. Anyways, so the roster management needs to get better, and I just don't think Howard should be back. But, anyways, second thing I wanted to talk about, more fallout from Michigan football. Wink got hired. Let me backtrack. Clinkscale said, secondary coach Clinkscale said he was going to come back. Then, all of a sudden, Wink gets announced as the DC, and all of a sudden today, Clink apparently is going to San Diego. So that just kind of really raises a big question mark. Like, what changed? Did San Diego come back and give him a better offer? Maybe. But if I honestly look at it, I know I love Michigan, right? If I could have, if somehow I would have gotten an opportunity to go to Michigan, anything, coach at Michigan, any of that stuff, I'd be at Michigan for life, right? But that's me as a fan. And if I was a coach, as a fan, I think I'd be that way as a coach too. But these guys aren't that way. They're not fans, right? If they were, Jim Harbaugh would stay at Michigan for the rest of his life, right? If they were, you wouldn't have guys going from one school to the other. It's like how many times you look at people's program records, and they went to Notre Dame, Alston, our D-line coach, former D-line coach, went from Notre Dame to Michigan. Well, Michigan and Notre Dame hate each other. How could you go there? It's like, these guys are professionals. The rivalry isn't really that big of a deal, except for maybe that rivalry game versus Notre Dame or Michigan, Ohio State. Don't get me wrong, it matters then. But it's not that big of a deal for coaches to go from one school to another. So I can see the coaching not being the same to them as it is to us as fanatics that we are. Another thing that I really think I need to get used to is that NFL coaching is way easier than college. I mean, just listen to it, right? If you are going to the NFL, you just worry about coaching your players. That's it. You're hired to coach your team. Now, you might get fired. Who doesn't have a chance to get fired? But think about this. Coaching NFL, you're just working secondary. Say Clinkscale goes to secondary. He's just working on the secondary. Think if you're in college, what do you have to do? You have to coach your players. Same thing. Okay, great. Now, college, you have to keep re-recruiting your players so that they don't leave via the portal. 2, you have to recruit your players and hope they'll come. How many players do you have to recruit and keep calling them and sucking up to these 16-year or 18-year-old guys, trying to get them to come to your school? Then you have to worry about NIL. Will someone buy your player from you, right? So you got to keep re-recruiting your guys on there. Then you have to worry about all these other things. It's so much more involved at the college level. There's so much more to worry about. Don't forget about all the recruiting trips you have to go. You have to go, let's just say the sake of it, your region, maybe it's the Southeast. You got to go to Florida, Alabama, Georgia. Go on all these tours. You got to see the players. You got to suck up to them again and say, oh, we want you at Michigan. You don't have to do any of that in the NFL. True, you're going to have long hours in the NFL, but you're not traveling to try to recruit players. You're not doing all this extra work. NFL, it's a business. And that's where it's the big gap, man. It's so much more laid out in the NFL. You don't even have to worry about money. That's the GM's job, right? You don't have to try to get, this player, if he wants to come, if he wants to stay, he's going to be $100,000 for him to stay. Can we get that from an NIL booster? You don't have to worry about that in the NFL. That's a huge difference, a lot less stress. So I can see why guys are going to want to go to the NFL if they can. So much easier. This NIL Wild West is just going to be insane until there's some sort of regularity. I don't know if that means that maybe we're going to have to go towards that super conference. I mean, I know the SEC and the Big Ten were meeting and stuff and trying to talk about how to proceed going forward. If they become a super conference, boom, have it be like baseball, where you have a salary cap, and if you go over that, you get a luxury tax and all that kind of stuff. Fine. But you need to have some sort of guardrails. There's nothing there that's just going to kill the sport this way. I hate to see it because I love college football. And what I love is just being taken away. But I know things change. I don't want to be the guy who's stuck in the mud or the guy who has his head in the sand thinking everything's fine. It's not. There's going to be things that have to change, and you're not going to get any change from the NCAA. They're completely worthless. They only go after people who won't fight back, i.e. Michigan. And so, or other people, a few other people they've gone after. But then you look at Tennessee, who threatens them with prosecution from the AD of Tennessee. It's like, are you really going to go after us? We'll see if the NCAA backs down. I think they will. They've already done that with Tennessee with the whole lunch bag money thing when that was illegal. The punishment for that crime was an automatic bowl game ban. And Tennessee was like, we're not going to accept any punishment if you take away a bowl game. And the NCAA backed down. That was right in the punishment description. Bowl game ban. And Tennessee fought it and didn't have to do it. Only teams that are afraid and little or organizationally, like Michigan, who's afraid of the NCAA, is the only one that makes the NCAA think they have any power. Make the super conference, make your own rules, and play. College football is really a minor league. Accept it, give these guys salaries, have a salary cap, luxury tax, fine, just like baseball, and go at it. So, it'll be interesting. That rambled a little bit, guys, but if you have any thoughts about Michigan and coaches leaving, or Michigan and the basketball team, and whether Howard should stay or go, let me know in the box below. I'll try to respond as I'm able to. I mean, disappointing in the way it is. Michigan just, had a great game versus Wisconsin, rose up and got a win, followed by just a terrible first half. And there you go. Hey, thanks again for watching. Until I see you guys next time, as always, go Blue.